Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. People are joining. People are joining. I'm looking forward to this. All right. All that fun stuff. We're getting a flood of people in. I think I have a blast from the past, Lauren. I didn't tell you this, but one of my high school teachers is on the webinar. How about that?
That's cool.
Back a quarter century plus. So hello, panelists. I'm sorry, hello, attendees. Thank you for joining. There's a bunch of you. If somebody can do me a quick favor and just test the chat function and test the Q&A function. Any questions are open, and for anybody that's been to an and marketing webinar before, we are extremely open. We love questions. We love interruptions. Really excited about this. Looks like there's a ton of people in here and we are ready to rock. Zave, thank you, my friend, for testing. Rachel, thank you for testing. Mr. Johnson, I will call you David because we're adults now. Nice to see you. So the way we work here at End Marketing is, like I said a moment ago, we'll get started in just a second, but a little bit of housekeeping for the flood of people that just joined. We love questions. We are here as experts, and Lauren is by far a bigger expert than I am in this space to help. And so ask all the questions you have. Lauren and I started about a month ago with a brainstorm that said, one of the biggest challenges people are facing right now is hiring and retaining top talent. We know we have this great resignation that's happening, and it really sits at the intersection of HR and of marketing. So we were excited to bring this to you. We think it's a meaty topic, clearly by the attendees, by the attendee count that's proving to be true. So anybody can ask a question at any time. I'm going to be monitoring the chat, and I'm going to be monitoring the Q&A. We have a very few materials to go through, a few slides and a few ideas. This is truly going to be question and answer driven. So if you have a question or answer, just shout it out. If we don't get to your question, we promise we will get to it afterwards. So if anybody wants to ask a question, please go ahead and feel free to do so. The more specific, the more applicable it is to your business, the better. Okay. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. It's a couple of minutes after 1 o'clock Eastern time. So welcome everybody. My name is Raj Kapoor. I'm the founder and managing director of And Marketing. And Marketing provides small, medium, and growing mid-market businesses an outsourced marketing department solution. I've run the business for about 4 years, and about 20 years before that, I spent doing a mix of sales, marketing, and strategy roles, mostly at big companies, but a few small ones as well. It is my pleasure to introduce my good friend and the founder and chief boss lady of Workplace Harmony, Lauren Williams. Lauren, do you want to say a quick hello and an overview of you?
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much, Raj. I really appreciate the opportunity to collaborate with you on this. You know, we were discussing a couple weeks ago how crazy the market is, how people are leaving left and right, what's going on, what we're seeing. So I think this is such a timely way to introduce this to everyone and give them some information. So I'm Lauren Williams. I am Chief Boss Lady of Workplace Harmony. We help workplaces not suck by providing some great people operations, human resources, and org development strategies to keep your biggest asset, which is your people. So all the things we're going to discuss today are all things that we can help with, and we do. And I hope you gain a lot from it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lauren. Looking forward to this. So let's start with the end in mind. Here are the things we're going to cover, so we're all sort of in the same place. But the key takeaways from this session: why is it so stinking hard to find top talent today? Number two, what are top companies doing to reposition themselves? What are some best practices? Those best practices fall into two different buckets. One is long-term fundamentals. How do you improve your company's positioning as an employer of choice? And then we also want to do some short-term basics that any company, any organization, I see some nonprofits on, obviously there's a school on, anybody can do right now to just start to do that. And then Lauren is going to provide how to make your job descriptions pop. And I know that's a big pain point for many, many people. Okay, so that's what to expect. If you have any questions, if it's around the periphery of this topic and it's not specifically covered here, that's okay. We still want your question. So please just go ahead and pop it into the chat. And I already see there's a couple questions. So we'll certainly get to all of those. Okay, so that's what we're doing. Let's talk a little bit about the challenge. And Lauren, I'll give you the floor here. Let's talk about this thing called the Great Resignation.
It's rough. So one thing I want to say to everyone on the call, you are not alone. This is all industries, all companies, nationwide, internationally, globally. People are leaving their jobs at a record rate. You can see some of the stats on here. People are just making a jump. So some of our clients, we're seeing resignations weekly. We're seeing people leave. If they haven't left, trust me, they're thinking about it. They're planning to leave. They're responding to those LinkedIn mails they get. They're starting to entertain those conversations. One thing I want to point out is that the level of tolerance for a job that sucks is really low with Gen Z and millennials. So while boomers and even Gen Xers like myself will put up with a certain level of suck in our job for a little while before we get fed up, they are not having it. So they are going to leave as soon as there's another opportunity, and they're going to be seeking out those opportunities. So they're always looking for the next right thing, the next best thing. So if you have employees within those demographics, just be mindful that they will probably be the ones looking and leaving, and it is going on everywhere. So I'm glad we're having this conversation today. It's really important.
Yeah. So Lauren, one of the questions that's asked, and Stacy, thank you so much for asking it. The question is, how does this translate and apply to smaller organizations in our communities, such as restaurants, coffee shops, and even professional services? I hear concerns about people showing up on time or not at all, poor customer service skills and everything. And before you answer, Lauren, like there's this sort of rant, and again, I'm a millennial / Gen Xer. I sit right there on that cusp. And there's this sort of a drumbeat about maybe millennials and Gen Zers that they don't have a work ethic, they don't have these things. I actually disagree. I feel like the ones that you get that are amazing are far and above as good as or better than any generation out there. And I really think it has to do a lot with engagement. So maybe you can answer a little bit about how those smaller community-based types of organizations are and talk a little bit about that.
I completely agree with you 1,000% that working closely with millennials and Gen Zers is that they're not lazy. They want to do a good job. They want to be mentored, coached, developed. They want to grow. And a lot of times those smaller businesses and smaller companies, it's just get the work done. There's really no plan or path or growth conversation. That's not even part of the vernacular. So one way that restaurants, coffee shops, bookstores, small businesses can think about that talent and how to help them really plug in is do some things to engage them. To your point, beef that up. Think about growth conversations. Even if you're not sure what it looks like, just start by asking, what do you want to grow to? What do you aspire to? What things light you up? What things in your role today don't light you up? Just start by having those really honest conversations. That's a great way. And I think too, you will see high turnovers naturally in those industries, but the businesses, restaurants, stores that can think of creative ways to keep talent, they will be much better off. And I know we're going to get to some of that in further slides too.
Yeah. Let me chime in as an employer, because certainly I'm not the expert on this topic, but the way I think about it is that there's a constant two-way contract between the person who's working and the employer. And as long as both of you are fulfilling both ends of the contract, you're fine. You're generally going to be okay, right? But it's not like if you do something through the pandemic, let's take ourselves back to March or April of last year. The conditions that existed then for somebody to want their job and keep their job are dramatically different than the ones that are a few months later, 15 months later, right? The dynamic has changed. And it's that contract of I pay you, you do work is just not enough. You've got to rise above that, understand what gets them excited, talk to them about, especially the younger generations, what kind of a job do you want? What are the projects that you're looking for? And then actively look to put them in those positions to win and succeed. And what I hear is that not enough people are doing that sort of thing. We're certainly not perfect, but we make an attempt to do that.
100%. It's the what else factor. I can go anywhere and get base and bonus. What else? What else are you giving me? Why else am I coming here? What else do you have to offer? Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk, before we jump into just hiring, tell us a little bit about keeping the ones you have.
Yeah, so I mean, these are some pretty phenomenal stats here, especially that most employees, you could prevent that turnover. You could prevent them from walking out, and it's not always money. So maybe write that down. It's not always compensation. Catch that person before they're willing to take that LinkedIn conversation with a recruiter. Catch them before they reach out to friends and say, hey, is your company hiring? I hear it's a great place to work. The reasons that people are leaving are varied, but let's think about this. Everyone has had a chance to slow down and reflect on their lives. they've had an opportunity to take inventory of what's important to them and what's important outside of work. It's not just that one focal point of work and that's what's important. It's how do I want to live my life? What's best for my well-being? I mean, COVID was a wake-up call to everyone. And I think for employees, they're coming up and saying, okay, I don't love what I'm doing, or I don't love what I'm doing and where I'm at and who I'm working for. And so sometimes it is compensation and benefits, but if you look at that chart, they really want to have that better balance. And if you're an employer who's not thinking about that, that could be one of the flaws, right? That you're not thinking about how do I give them that? And it can't be a summer Friday where they still have to answer emails. That doesn't count. It can't be you get unlimited PTO, but you're online the whole time. You really have to be thoughtful about this, and it's built from the top down. So if you're someone who shows that you grind 24/7, it's actually not the best image for your employees to see. So hang on to the ones you have. Look for signs of disengagement. That person who was always your rock star starts calling out or showing up late or leaving early, having a lot of appointments. Don't be afraid to say, hey, what's going on? What's up? Just have that conversation with them. People that maybe were once your pretty steady employees are starting to show signs of disengagement. Their work product may be falling off, things like that. And there's a lot of ways you can also peek into what they're thinking, looking at Glassdoor, looking at your employer reviews and seeing what people are saying about working there. Yeah, some of them might just be super disgruntled, but never write them all off because of that. There might be 1 or 2 points in there that you can learn from.
Yeah, it's great. Lauren, let me pause and ask the group. Let's do a poll right here and now.
Yeah.
What I'd like everybody to put in the chat box is, when is the last time you did an employee survey on their satisfaction with their job? So that could be Company 360. That could be what Lauren introduced me a term called a stay interview. Why would I stay? It could be an online survey. It could be a informal survey, not just the people who are disgruntled, not just the people who left, not just the people who joined recently, but your entire organization. When's the last time you did that? So it sounds like somebody said they did that 5 months ago. Somebody did that in July. Those are pretty good. Somebody said January of 2020. I'm going to argue the world has changed pretty massively since January of 2020. My friend Claire did it with a client at her request. That's exactly the right spirit. I would say if it's been more than 3 to 6 months, it's probably time to do it, because in this period of massive change, it is changing really fast. Speaking of change, we got a great question in. So the question is about reshuffling. So is this reshuffling of talent necessarily a bad thing, Lauren? Or is this a way to diversify, cross-pollinate talent and business ideas? I think it's a little bit of a leading question, because I think the answer is yes, but it'd be awesome if you can elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, I'm all for diversifying that talent pool. I'm all for upgrading talent internally. What I'd say to that is, let's look at who's leaving. Sometimes it's not a regrettable loss. It's okay. It's someone you can, backfill, replace, and, you're going to keep right on cranking. If it's someone who's pretty critical, not just to your company, but your culture, that's what's going to hurt. A lot of times when we look at employees and resources, we say, oh, it's okay, so-and-so will learn his job. But who's going to fill that seat, so to speak? Who's going to be the one that rallies employees through tough times? Who's going to be that culture person? If that person was someone like that, that's harder to fill, right? That's harder to replace. So all for diversification of talent, all for upgrading talent. I don't think it's a bad thing to have people coming and going. I think when it's happening at like a record clip, if there's anything we can do to like stop that bleeding, that's what we want to do.
Yeah, awesome. Absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. So let me talk a little bit about the status quo. And I'm speaking both as a marketer and as somebody who's gone through a massive change in my organization, right? So what is the status quo? Well, in many places, it's boring old job descriptions, right? So something that was in an old classified ad that says, I'm hiring a software developer, apply today, call, right? That's so arcane. What are the job requirements? What's the salary? What's the basic benefits? A bunch of legalese sent through the same old channels, right? That's boring. What is also very tired is slow and rigid HR processes. I know you're a pro at this, but the candidate experience is sometimes really atrocious and has nothing to do with what that person is experiencing. We had this running joke in our preparation for this. Lauren called it, hello, my name is Karen and I work in HR, right? Karen from HR has her rigid processes. She gives you a templated response. She takes weeks to reply. And it's just a really frustrating process. So the status quo is what you have to fight. Depending on the size of your organization, you can only make so much change. But in small organizations, I would argue this is the place that we can actually differentiate the most. So really think about how the status quo compares to what you're actually doing today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll just add to that, Raj. I agree. If the process isn't working and you're losing key candidates, stop and reevaluate what you can be doing to speed that up. And it doesn't always have to be slow, check every single box. Think of creative ways to do that. Think of ways to do panel interviews to get more people meeting that person quickly. They are not hanging on the market long. Most job seekers have 2 to 5 other offers. So you're not the only one. And so it's really important that you start thinking about this in your organization and ask others that come in, what was your experience? What can we improve? We love doing post-hire surveys, quick 5 questions to the new hire. What was great about your interview process? What would you like to see improved? How was the communication? How were the touch points? Gives you some really great insight just to pull some of those recently incorporated employees.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so let's talk about improving the employer brand. And we'll start with some of the fundamentals, some of that long-term stuff. So I run a marketing company, so I see things as a marketing problem, right? And my perspective is reassess your employer brand. We spend a ton of time in the marketing department thinking about our company's brand because we're trying to sell our products and service to a customer or an end user or something like that. So why don't we look at marketing? Why don't we look at hiring like a marketing problem, right? Who would your prospect be? Well, it would be that candidate who's got the right experience, who's looking for the right thing, and how do we reframe things? So one of the tools we use in our arsenal is called the story brand framework. And what the story brand framework reframes an entire marketing problem with the candidate or the prospect as the hero. So I think the number one thing that anybody on this line can do is rethink of that person as the hero, and you are the one that's going to give them the tools to help them along their journey. So a couple things you can do is, number one, look internally. Right? What's your culture? What are you doing well and what can you do better? The analogy to marketing for products and services is that you have to understand what you sell. Because if you are marketing something that you can't actually deliver, you're going to get in a lot of trouble. Okay. Number 2, listen. Lauren already mentioned it. We already talked about the most recent time that you did a survey against your employees. What drives their satisfaction? Ask all of your employees. What makes them happy? What keeps them there? What are the sorts of things that they're looking for? And really listen with an empathetic ear. Then
Can I just shout out real quick, not to cut you off, you're on a roll, but we just did this with a client where we recognized some key people leaving a certain division, and we were like, hold on, what's going on? We hit the brakes. We quickly did stay interviews with a larger population of the employees still there to say, what's going on? We identified some key errors and issues going on. We quickly corrected them. We made some changes, and we were able to retain the rest of that group and actually bring back 1 or 2 that resigned based on those changes. So they work. It's a big win. It's not a huge lift. It's something you can do pretty easily.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great. Appreciate the interruption. That was good. It actually hits a perfect timing because a question came up and it maybe allows you to elaborate a little bit here. But what are 1 or 2 things you think a company can do right now to highlight their culture to attract better candidates?
That's a good one. I think one of the things you can do right now is take a quick peek at your social media presence. Are you only external facing, customer, or what are you saying about a day in the life of an employee at your company? What are you saying about highlighting your values? What are you saying about your volunteerism? What are you saying about the way employees are treated? Take a quick look there because everyone's on social media. And if you have something that makes people stop scrolling and think of you as an employer of choice, that's a big win. That's a really big win.
Yeah, one example just in my little business is we're mostly a B2B company, right? Other companies hire us to do work. So we work in the B2B space. However, we do have an Instagram and Facebook presence. That's not where our customers usually are to buy, but we know that that's where potential future employees are. So we do keep that presence up. Of course, businesses are on there too, and we want to attract them, but that's one of the main things. We would normally just be through LinkedIn, but we actually diversify that. So it's a great answer.
Yeah.
So the third
and then
part
ask your employees. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say the other thing you can do is ask your employees, what's the best thing about our culture? Send out a quick blip, 1 question and see what they're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we do, it's called an employee NPS score. And so it's 3 questions. It's number 1, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate and marketing as a great place to work, with 10 being perfect and 1 being horrible? Number 2 is, why'd you give it that score? And number 3 is, what would it take to get to a 10? And it's amazing the responses you get back, right? So we ask a few other questions than that, but that's something that everybody can do. And so what you do after you listen is you build. You actually use that material to go build your actual employer value proposition for your company. Decide what it is and really lead with it. So that's the first one, is to reassess that plan. Lauren, you want to talk a little bit about candidate experience?
Yes. So candidate experience is something that doesn't get a lot of thought often, because the old school view was, well, people want jobs, they're just going to come to us. We're doing them a favor, we're giving them a job. That's not the case any longer. You really need to think of job seekers as those people you want to come in. You have to go after them. They are not just lining up waiting, and you don't want the ones that are. Trust me, you want to be actively going out and seeking people. And so really think of them that way. Don't wait. Get away from that old antiquated process. If your hiring process takes 60 days, you need to look at crunching that down, getting through it quicker. If it's panel interviews where many people meet with the person at once, if it's a really thoughtful screen and selection process, don't wait. Like I said, they have offers out there. If your hiring process looks like the chart to the left, that's a good place to start and revamp. That is extremely too convoluted. And don't lose a good candidate because of that. I mean, you want to move them along, and you really do want to think of it as you are selling them on your company and on your job. They have 10 other companies that look just like it with the same job descriptions, the same stuff. And so you really want to be that one that stands out.
Absolutely awesome. That's good. That's good. I'm looking to see if there's a related question. It doesn't look like there is. Why don't we start going through some examples, Lauren? Do you want to?
Love it.
Let's go through a few case studies here.
So this is one that is a client we work with. It's a sports media company. And when we began, we noticed the job descriptions were really vanilla. They were just your standard. I'm going to Google a job description, and it's the qualifications, responsibilities, education. And that's not going to work. These need to be something that sell a person on coming into the company. So it's really an ad. And what do you want to highlight in there? Well, you want to use the story brand framework, like Raj was talking about, making it about them. What is it in it for them? Not just base pay and compensation, but what other things are they getting? What does growth and mentoring and development look like at your company? What wow factors can you put in there that when I read it, I don't just get a sense of the job, I get a sense of the company. Be really thoughtful about what words you use, what communication you use. You really want to create a buzz. And I don't know, Raj, can you flip to that one sample?
I'm going to try, and it's going to look like magic. So let's try this here.
Yeah, magic.
I'm going to share a real life example here a little bit on the fly. So maybe Lauren, take us through this real example. And there was a question that said, show a good job description. This is one that affected my business, but this isn't exactly ours. So take us through this one, maybe a before and after, Lauren.
Yeah, so when we met with this company, we got a really good feeling for their culture, and we were like, we need to highlight how cool you are. We need to highlight how fun it is and how casual it is, and that you want really hungry go-getters, right? We don't want to write to the person who may just want to come in and do some work. Like, we want like someone really tenacious. And so the language you used was really strong, and it was really clear about like, what does a day look like for them, a day in the life. So what you'll do and exactly what that looks like. And you're going to contribute meaningfully to our growth. So job seekers now really want purpose in their work. I mean, all people want purpose in their work, but now it's a little more forefront. And so you want to explain what is the purpose behind what they're doing and what are they contributing to. If you want to scroll down a little, I'll share a little more of the areas where we really wanted this to pop. Really calling out about the culture, who you are and what you have, and then who we are too, and what things they're offering. So the salary, put the numbers in, don't be afraid. People need to know what it's going to make. Benefits, right? So what? Everyone has benefits. What else are we doing? Well, we're doing things to also help keep your soul healthy. And how are we doing that? A really cool office vibe. This was back when people were in office, so we wanted to highlight they had just got this amazing office space, paid time off, and we really want you to recharge. And then food, always food. There are so many articles saying people don't care about food. I think that's crap. I definitely love a good snack in the day. I applaud the companies who like healthy snacks. I'm all for that too. But I think adding that, hey, there are free drinks and free coffee, and do it. These are all things that is going to make it stand out. Like, we're a heavily caffeinated bunch. Make sure you sign up, bring your mug, whatever it may be. It's okay to show a little personality in this. It'll get more people that you want signed up.
I think that's awesome. And I'm just going to turn the screen share off for this question, because we just got a great question about salary, right? So there's a lot of talk about making sure that you include the salary on the job description. This is a very specific question. It says, when your salary range is very high and it's truly dependent on the person's experience, how do you communicate the salary range? So I read that and I thought to myself, well, sometimes when we hire, if there's somebody with a ton of experience, they may make as much as twice as much as somebody with no experience. We'd still look at the person with very little experience, but we would pay that very dramatically different. How would you advise handling that, Lauren?
One of the things we do is we'll do like a different way of saying it, like a minimum salary of blah and up, minimum of 150 and up, or up to, and maybe you list the top of your range. If you're afraid of highlighting that top of the range, then just say base, this starts at this and goes up depending on your years of experience and results delivered.
That's great. I think that's absolutely great. Okay, awesome. I'm going to start sharing once again.
That was a great chat that just came through. Yes.
Yeah, it's great. Any other questions that are coming through? So here, awesome. The other one, so again, me looking at everything like a marketing problem, I was looking to do a hire and I went to one of my networking groups, Extremely Valued, and I sort of said, I'm really struggling with hiring this role. What do I do? And I got a piece of tight, candid feedback, and they said, your career page sucks. They didn't say boring like I put here on the slide, but they said it sucks. They said your job description is boring. All it does is talk about the job and the price. But in reality, you're a cutting edge company. You're working with the latest technologies. You're working with high growth companies that are doing all of these exciting things. And none of that comes through. So what do? We made our candidate the hero. And we went through, we did a bunch of research on what candidates are looking for and what our employees provide. And we came up with this use of the StoryBrand framework. So if you go to our careers page today, what is it? It is all about our employee value proposition. And for our business, because we're 100% remote and we always have been, we prioritize flexibility and we have a very demanding results-driven culture, right? We want to drive amazing results for our clients. So what do we say? You don't have to choose between a fulfilling career and a personal life. We look for growth, excellence, innovation, and we provide flexibility. Then it says, what is the problem? The problem is that almost everybody that works at our business has in the past worked in a rigid, restrictive work environment that prevents you from reaching your full potential. That's the person we want to go. We want to show empathy to the fact that they've had these experiences. I've had long commutes. Most of our people have had long commutes. Bureaucracy in the office, inflexible work schedules, mundane tasks. Sure, do we have some of that stuff? Yes, but what we strive to provide people is the opposite of that, which is the solution. We're constantly strive to exceed our expectations of our clients and of our employees. And how do we do that? Well, we believe that work should be fulfilling and exciting, not mundane and boring. Opportunities to grow. You should have both a satisfying work life and a home life, right? And hopefully, again, I as the business owner am delivering on that. So I wanted to show a really concrete example of how you go from just, okay, here are our job descriptions, to like something a little bit more exciting, right? That really promotes your company as a differentiator. Okay.
And one other thing is, if you can, don't use stock photos on your careers page. So many employers use like the happy stock photos, and it's like, no one at your workplace looks like that. Don't be afraid to use real people. I mean, put them out there so I know before I walk in, oh, I'm going to see that person and that person might, and this is what it really looks like.
I think that's a great piece of advice. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's be a little more action oriented. What are some things we can start doing now? So maybe Lauren, you can go first.
Yeah, definitely. So these are great ways that you can just quickly tap in and get going on this stuff. So first, take some inventory, find out why your company is a great place to work or not. Look at those Glassdoor and Indeed reviews. Look at what people are saying. See if any of it's true, and if there's anything that you can take and really develop an action plan around and make some quick wins, right? If you know it's one particular business area or it's one particular process that's slow and outdated, you can make some changes. Leverage that internal team. So a great way to do it, if you're not already doing it, is employee referral bonuses. Good people know good people. Have them tell their friends, neighbors, communities to come work for you. Offer a little kicker, maybe a little incentive if they get someone hired and they work out. And also ask employees to reshare what you're putting out on social. So Raj has mentioned they do a lot on Instagram and the other social media channels. Have your employees reshare that always. So I ask my team all the time, like, hey, reshare these posts, get out there, and it's okay. And you want them to do it because they're touching other people, right? It's reaching a broader audience and it's coming from them. So it's like a trusted source. So don't be afraid to ask people to do that too. Get some new hire information. Get some testimonials. A great way is a post-hire quick survey, really short, but ask them how they're feeling. Ask them how they're doing. Another nice win from doing that is you might highlight some things they need as a new hire. So we've done this where people say, oh, I still need this software. I need some IT stuff. Great. That's something they can get taken care of. But also you might get some great testimonials of, it was really awesome when I came on site and so gave me a tour. We used to do a lot of hiring at one of the companies I was with, and we would do a tour. And it felt so like, okay, here's the tour, let's go. But people loved it because they were like, I got to see the real business. I got to see all the divisions, all the units. And it was great to walk around and get a feel for that company. So think of what you're doing with those candidates, and then get a pulse on your employees now by doing a culture survey. Really short. Check on what aspects of the company are awesome. Check on what things people might not feel are so great. You'll be surprised at what things people like that you maybe just take for granted or forget are out there. So I'd encourage you to do a pulse survey. It doesn't have to be long or intense. It can have some really thoughtful questions. Reach out if you want a sample. I'd be happy to share some of what we use.
So Lauren, here's a great question that came in that I think is on a lot of people's minds. We have a white male dominated culture. How do we increase our diversity?
That is top of mind for many. It takes intentionality and it takes investment and buy-in from the top. So if you have a lot of male and pale individuals around that table, what you want to do is get buy-in from them. Are you okay with increasing diversity and inclusivity at this group? And start before you go external and think, oh, we need to hire all these folks. Look internally at who's not invited to those meetings, who's not part of those dialogues, and start there. It also takes an investment. They're going to want to either evaluate if they're upgrading some talent, adding some talent, bringing in a consultant to help think about a program. It's not a switch you turn on. But it can be done. I've seen some major progress in the past 18 months with companies being very intentional, but you have to walk the talk. Don't just say it and put up a banner or whatever. You got to actually do it. And so if it's something you're interested in, I do have a person on the team who's really, really good with DE&I and inclusivity workshop.
Yeah. Besides calling you, what can they do? I'll ask a sort of an impromptu question. So for those people struggling with hiring, which should be the population of our group here, what is the biggest challenge in your hiring process today? Is it retention? Is it diversity? Is it gender diversity? Is it something else? Like, what do you consider? I'd love the answers in the chat, and I'll start shouting some of those out. What are the things that keep you up at night when it comes to your employee talent, retention, or acquisition of new talent? So I'm seeing diversity. There's a couple of people that said that. One person actually addressed the referral program here. Maybe it's a question for you. Said, we got rid of our referral program. We found that people we were referring to were the same type of people with a lack of diversity. So I guess that maybe an unintended consequence of one of the recommendations you made. Any comments there?
Yeah, I will say if you are publicly acknowledging and telling your employees that you are looking for a more diverse pool of talent, then that is something they can keep in mind when referring people into the organization. So let them know this is the way we want to hire. This is sort of our new process. We revamp things, and we're looking to new job boards. We're looking to more diverse places. We're open to different types of individuals coming in with different skill sets, because we know that creativity comes from those outside ideas. So kind of framing it and letting them know that you want them to refer people of diverse backgrounds and from different areas, different geographies.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. So I'll do a last call. We only have about 2 or 3 slides left. So I'll do a last call for questions. We have 3 or 4 in the bank, and we'll make sure we get to all of them. But if anybody else has a question, please do pop it in the Q&A or pop it in the chat, and we'd love to go. Let me talk a little bit about some more digital tactics. I think we've covered all of these. But number one is use social media to highlight employee experiences. The example from Oracle is awesome because it shows a real life person. Why do they love their job? It gives a direct quote from them, and it really talks about what their experience at the company is. The one on the bottom left is actually from our little company. This is a social media post that we did because we had a Friday bingo day during the middle of the pandemic, and we just wanted to show that that's the type of thing we do to have a little bit of fun and have a little bit of levity. On the right-hand side, I just showed an example of virtual job fairs. Obviously, with things changing so quickly in the job marketplace, people are still looking for jobs and people still look for talent. So I encourage you to look at non-traditional types of ways. Mm-hmm. So virtual job fairs are a way to do that. And I would think that most companies don't do a great job at virtual job fairs. They don't staff them correctly. They don't go through the process very correctly. So Lauren, you're nodding your head. Anything to add there?
Yeah, I was just going to add the other really key component is who is speaking to your candidates. And, from your recruiter to the person scheduling interviews to the hiring managers, they need to be told and sold that you are selling this company and this job. And I always say to managers, the most important part of that person's day is talking to you. So treat them like that. Do not blow them off. Do not be on your phone. Do not be multitasking on screens. It is the most important thing that person is going on that day. It may not be your most important thing, and that's okay, but be intentional with your time. Try not to blow them off. Try not to reschedule. And I think if you can communicate that to your hiring managers, the candidates will have a really good experience.
Yeah, I think all of us can think of an experience in our past, especially maybe those of us over a certain age, of feeling blown off, feeling put off in some other way, or not feeling like a priority. I think that's pretty good. One other idea I'll share, just one of the friends of the firm for marketing, is really consider new sources of talent. So there's a company called Xbound. So it's xbound.us. And what they're specifically designed to do is align retired or semi-retired talent with new opportunities. So one of the challenges people find is that we talk a lot about how to get younger talent, quote unquote, less experienced younger talent. There's actually a lot of evidence that late career, semi-retired, or even retired people still want to be a part of the workforce. And what's a better way to do that? With somebody with a ton of experience. So right now, Xbound is allowing people to post jobs for free and allowing people to post resumes for free. And they're in sort of their startup phase. So I encourage people, if you have a job posting, go after that population. It's a two-sided marketplace, so you can do either of those. You can put a resume of your own or somebody you know, or you can put up a job description there. So I encourage people to check out companies just like Xbound. Okay. Now what, Lauren? What do people do?
Yeah, so one thing to kind of remember is this is not just like a passing fad. Like, this is something that we're going to have stick around for a little while here. A lot of people are predicting maybe like the turn of the new year. And so it's not okay to just sit back and say, oh, well, we'll just weather the storm. You've really got to take some action and think about what things we covered today that you can realistically pull off and get done, what things you can implement quickly, what might be a short-term versus long-term strategy, how can you take some of the marketing tips Raj has provided, how can you revamp that careers page, really be proactive about this and make sure that it's supported organizationally from everyone, your C-levels all the way through the organization, so that everyone's on board with whether it's more diverse hiring, maybe it's new job boards, maybe it's leveraging Xbound like Raj just showed. Make it a full problem across the organization, not just like an HR problem. Make sure that you're engaging the employees, hanging on to the ones you have, and really getting in front of it if you start to see some signs of disengagement, or in a particular business unit if you see a lot of turnover.
That's absolutely awesome. So let's open it up. We'll be on for as long as we need to, and we'll go through some questions. This first question is absolutely for you, Lauren. We have a few not so great Glassdoor reviews. Do you have any suggestions about how we improve on Glassdoor?
Yes. So everyone here, I think we're in a safe space, knows that Glassdoor is like the Yelp of employers, and people don't normally go on Yelp to say they had a great meal. They go on to bash what a horrible experience they had. Same with Glassdoor. More often than not, your employees who left without the greatest taste in their mouth are going to go in there and write things and blast, or the employees who are a little fearful of face-to-face conversations will go in and write things. So I think one of the worst things I see people do is try to figure out who said what. It doesn't matter. It's out there. Who cares who said it? It's out there. Now deal with it. There are parts of that commentary that you can learn from and grow from, or you can just sit around and be pissed off. I would rather learn and grow from them, honestly. And I would encourage business leaders to do that too. This comment resonates. You know, we've read this comment a couple times, so let's look into this. There may be something we want to do. The other thing I would say is if you do have some negative Glassdoor reviews, don't be afraid to respond in a really thoughtful, respectful manner. And don't be afraid to say, you know, thank you so much for this feedback. It's our intention to build a great company. We're going to be looking into ways we can do that. And your feedback has helped us, you know, thank you. Don't go back and forth. Don't combat the responses, but don't be afraid to respond. And then some things you can do too is run an internal campaign. Like I said, you can do a new hire survey. And one of the things we like to put at the bottom, if you're already enjoying being at And Marketing or Workplace Harmony, please go out, give us a shout out on Glassdoor, the good, the bad, the ugly. We want to hear it all. That way you're getting the newer employees who just came in, excited to be there, may go out and really boost that diversity of the reviews you have.
Yeah, that's great, Lauren. I think it's the last question. So again, last call if anybody else has any, but this is really striking a balance. Job seekers are impatient. How do we keep things moving internally while still being intentional and going through all of our processes to make our hiring decisions?
That is such a great question. I'm seeing so many people with their hair on fire that they're just hiring randomly and they're not really being thoughtful about that. Engage with like either your HR partner, maybe an operations partner to identify, you know, what did we want for this role? We have these 3 candidates. Who fits that bill? And are there anybody else internally they need to talk to, or can we move forward? So kind of have that intentional conversation and schedule that out of, okay, we're posting it this week. We'll have candidates over the next 2 to 3 weeks, then interviews. In 4 weeks, we're going to sit down and have this conversation, or in 3 weeks. And then over communicate with your candidates that, hey, we're on a tight timeline. We'd love to fill this by end of month. If that doesn't happen, are you entertaining other offers? When do you need to get back to them? What do they have that we don't? Don't be afraid to ask that last one. It's okay, and it can give you some really good insight.
Oops, sorry, I'm just working the pause button here. That's perfect, Lauren. Give us a little bit. How can people reach you if they want to reach out to you if they have any follow-up questions?
Oh, so many ways. So you can get us on all of the socials, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn is a great way, but you can also email me, lauren@workplaceharmonyhr.com. Shoot me a note. I am an information sharer. I will give you all the resources. I will share what's working, what's not. Love to just have a conversation. So please feel free to drop an email or go on the website, check it out. That's just workplaceharmonyhr.com.
That's awesome, Lauren. Thank you so much. My last request for the chat box is what I would love is some immediate feedback. How valuable was this as a use of your time? So give me a score 1 to 10. 10 was this is a great use of time. 1 was we didn't get anything out of it, and I'm sorry that I spent the time here. Let's get some honest feedback. And if we can do anything better, throw that in the chat, shoot us an email. I'll go ahead and wrap here. Lauren, thank you so much for your time. Again, my name is Raj Kapoor. I'm the founder and managing director of And Marketing. We work with small and medium-sized businesses all the way up to mid-market with an outsourced marketing solution. My email address is there if you have any questions. If you want to revamp your employer homepage, Lauren and I can put together a package and do that with you. And it looks like we're getting a lot of questions. Oh, here's the last question somebody asked. Will the recording be sent? That's absolutely correct. We will send out the recording as a result of this. It'll be on YouTube. You'll get an email with it along with a poll. So we ask everybody to have a wonderful afternoon or an evening or a morning, whatever time zone you're in. And we really appreciate your time. I'm getting a lot of 10s and 9s and those sorts of things. So I'm glad everybody
Awesome.
thought this was a valuable time. Thanks again, Lauren. We appreciate
Thank
you.
you, everyone. Thank you for your time.